Hey, everybody, welcome to the Pulse episode number 4. I'm Tolly Carr along with Nia, Symone, and James Hadnot. Welcome back, everybody, to the show. Guys, NBA All-Star Weekend wrapped up. I don't know about you, but I missed half of it because this year, because of the Olympics, like everything was on super early.
Yeah.
I just missed it all. I got home from work from HBCU Go on Saturday night. They were already in the midst of the three-point contest. I went to watch the All-Star game at 8 o'clock on Sunday night because it felt right. And the slate on the screen was like it was already over. But the one thing that I did get a chance to see was North Carolina A&T and Hampton. The HBCU All-Star Classic and All-Star Weekend comes down to the final buzzer. Man, Hampton almost pulled it off. A&T holds on for the win. That's a big rivalry as they have shifted together to the CIAA. Fighting that fight out there, and it was a good one, James. What did you think of how things went down at All-Star Weekend for those two HBCUs?
Yeah, I thought it was a fun game for sure. When you have teams like North Carolina A&T that's struggling kind of in conference play, they get on the big stage in front of the entire country, taking on a Hampton team that was middle of the road in the conference, and they won that game. They came back from being down, I believe, 7 points in under 2 minutes. And so they were able to find a way. Lewis Walker, who's a redshirt freshman, he led the team in scoring. Trent Middleton had the late bucket with under 5 seconds left. So it was an exciting game. And it was one that was hopefully for North Carolina A&T, have a month left in the season. They can kind of figure things out and maybe push once they get to that Colonial Athletic Association tournament. So all in all, it's always big for these schools to kind of get on this type of stage, get this type of shine. And you love it for both North Carolina A&T and for Hampton.
Nia, what do you think this platform does for HBCUs? We've now had 5 years of being on the big stage at All-Star Weekend. What do you think the significance of the game is?
Well, first off, I was the opposite of you because I was fighting for my life to stay awake for that second half. And I woke up and I was like, oh, North Carolina A&T came back with a thriller. Man, I'm sad I fell asleep on the second half, but nevertheless, I think it invites the world to see HBCU culture at full throttle, right? As James said, it ended in a thriller. Who would have thought North Carolina A&T with the season that they're having to be able to fight when they get on the big stage? And it just gives the opportunity for not only the players and the athletes, but these institutions to be able to get the platform and the recognition that they deserve. And I think it's an incredible thing that the NBA is partnering and continuing to partner with these HBCUs. And not to mention, both of these teams walked away with $100K. That's incredible. So when we just talk about it's bigger than basketball, but when you think about HBCU sports, you think about HBCU basketball. I mean, this is the cream of the crop. This is what it looks like when you come and watch an HBCU basketball game, right? Of course, they did their swag surf. They had the Greeks come out. Chloe Bailey, she not only did Lift Every Voice and Sing, she did the national anthem, had the band with her. I mean, that is the type of level of energy that you'll get with HBCU basketball. And I just hope to see more of this happen, not just All-Star Weekend.
Well, James, the translation that we're looking for is more exposure. And ultimately, we want the schools to benefit, for more fans, more TV ratings, you fill in those blanks. But we also want these kids to get a shot at the next level. Currently, we have one HBCU player, Javon Cook from Winston-Salem State. He's a member of the Portland Trailblazers. Man, it's such a big business now, James. It feels like college athletics is the minor league that's feeding the NBA. And now you got to also compete with overseas players who are becoming more and more efficient in the league. What challenges do you think are still some of the biggest hurdles for HBCU kids to get a shot at the NBA, at the G League?
Yeah, I think the challenges are depending on maybe you have an individual player who might be ready to take that next step, maybe to get to the G League or get drafted. But sometimes talent all the way around makes it more difficult for that one player to kind of shine because it is a team sport. And so, for example, you might have a team like Bethune-Cookman that has guys, and when they go play in Arizona, they can play well for a half, but they might fall off at the end just because they don't have the same amount of depth and the same amount of, just players once they get to maybe that second unit, like in Arizona or a high major Division I team has. And so what you miss out on then is, because a lot of times when it comes to GMs and things of that nature, when they're going to scout, they like to go to the big games. So if Arizona is playing Houston, there's a lot of potential NBA talent in that game. North Carolina plays Duke. They're going to those games and they're looking at those potential players and the talent. So I think the real reason why it's a little bit more difficult is just because the overall, once you get down to that fifth, sixth, maybe seventh player, where it kind of struggles. But there's obviously talent, at the HBCU level, because guys may come from higher up to come down, or they may go from a SWAC school or a MEAC school and then kind of find their way up. And so we see it even with the SWAC. Sterling Young is playing at Indiana State. He was the player of the year in the SWAC last year, and he's averaging, 12 or 13 points a game at Indiana State right now. And so it's definitely possible. I just think that when it comes to the different GMs or the different scouts, and they're trying to see a lot at one time, that's where it becomes difficult.
And Nia, that's kind of the thing, right? You would think back in the day, if an HBCU kid really started to show some talent, maybe the NBA would come calling, show interest. Well, now the first person to come calling are the Power 4 schools.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's now an additional barrier for that straight to HBCU to NBA pipeline.
Well, I mean, it's a different era. Things are so different with NIL. Like you said, P4, P5s are now calling just to see about these players. And so, as James mentioned, the depth, right? The bandwidth, it looks a lot different than it would on a P4, P5 level. But, I would like to see where, of course, we've seen TJ Matlock of Alabama State have an opportunity to compete in the NBA Summer League in 2025. Steve Settle III, Noah Farrakhan, all of these names, right? But then it's like, okay, we get this shot. And then, of course, TJ, I know for sure, is in Germany, right, playing overseas ball. And it's like, okay, so is that it? Just like there is a G League, there's a developmental league. Is there an opportunity for HBCU players to be at least get a shot at the G League, to get a consistent rep, to possibly have the opportunity to get called up if they are a two-way player to play on the NBA roster? But you're right, now with NIL and transfer portal, that adds another layer to it, to where I don't think we will see traditionally like we saw maybe if we want to go back to Robert Covington, before those days, it's just a different era now. It's a different era. It's a different time. And so now HBCUs, as well as these scouts, are going to have to get creative of how do we get more historically Black colleges and university players at the next level playing for us and representing.
And James, some of it is, or at least could be, relationship based, right? We're seeing more people with the NBA cachet in the HBCU ranks, people like Reggie Theus, people like Mo Williams. And those relationships could create opportunities if the talent is right. And guys, let's start here before we run out of time. There is an opportunity right now at Winston-Salem State. Their head coach was fired over this past weekend. Some people have been trying to connect the dots, saying, hey, Chris Paul is from Winston-Salem. He actually graduated from Winston-Salem State, finished his degree there. James, do you give any credence to the possibility, and do you like it? Thumbs up, thumbs down. A guy like Chris Paul, freshly retired, maybe going to coach at a Winston-Salem State.
I mean, you can never say never. I think in kind of the reporting on it is a long shot at best, only because, he has his family that lives in Los Angeles. It'd be a big move to kind of get back, to his home city where he kind of grew up. Obviously, his parents, I believe he went to school there. And so he has a real understanding. Clarence Big House Gaines, the longtime head coach, the legend in the CIAA, actually went to Chris Paul's high school basketball games at West Forsyth. So there's a big connection there. And so that's why you can't say never. Obviously, that connection, kind of him coming back, would really breathe a lot of life into the men's basketball program. That's not too far off from winning a CIAA championship, I believe, 2 years ago or in 2023. And so you gotta have some credence to it because he just has that connection. But I think when it comes to kind of coaching, especially at the Division II level, when it comes to funding, when it comes to all those different things. The numbers have to be right. The recruiting budget has to be right. A lot of things would have to be right for him to make that move, especially right now. Maybe you give it, 3 or 4 or 5 years. He's kind of done things differently. He's kind of now is going to settle down. Maybe that's kind of the last hurrah, maybe there. But again, it would be a lot to kind of get him there.
Nia, your take on possibility, air quotes, hypothetical Chris Paul, Winston-Salem State.
I mean, obviously it's such a fun conversation to think about, right? Like James said, never say never, right? Where as of February 13th, he announces a retirement officially from the NBA, and then the next day, coach at Winston-Salem State gets fired. So, like you said, never say never, but just to be hypothetically and just kind of thinking of putting myself in Chris Paul's shoes, and of course, I'm nowhere near the talent of Chris Paul, but the way things ended for his NBA career obviously wasn't the way he wanted to go out. So there's still some level of emotion, I think. And, when you're trying to turn a program around, and of course, Chris Paul, I mean, that would be incredible. But we're thinking about someone who's fresh off of an NBA career. Like James said, family is in Los Angeles. He has 2 kids. His son is coming up. He has a wife. Putting all those things into play, and it's not to say that it isn't possible, but when you think about the logistics, when you think about, we're talking about Chris Paul now going to go coach Division II CIAA basketball, what does that look like? Because we know that there are resources and things that we still need for us to continue to grow, to be able to embrace that level of talent to come and coach and lead a team. And so, like James said, never say never, but just thinking hypothetically of where Chris Paul may be, I don't know if, and I'm not speaking for him, but I don't know if he's mentally ready to take that step into coaching with his career still being so fresh.
Right. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, as we go to the break, everyone at home, think about this possibility. He doesn't have to coach. Make him the first ever general manager in Division II basketball history. He can do that job from LA, construct a roster, get some, sponsors through there, have all his great ideas from the golf course in Beverly Hills. You heard it here first. Make him the GM. Let somebody else do the heck. He can pick the coach. Who knows? Just the thought.
And you know what? I do.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Before we break off.
Hold that thought, because I want to talk about you, Nia, and I want to hear what you have to say. So hold that.
Sure.
Stick around. We'll be back. It's the Pulse right here on HBCU Go. Okay, welcome back to the Pulse. When we last left you, Nia had a hot thought. I think I stirred the pot when I said, forget this coaching business. Let's go GM. Nia, I know you have some thoughts, but I've been thinking about this. It's already happening. Master P is the GM of what? The New Orleans private, whatever they are, the New Orleans University of New Orleans. Like, he's not the coach, but he's bringing in attention as a GM. I'm sure he can still, be bout it in these streets and not go to practice every day. What were you going to say, Nia?
No, I agree, especially from the business aspect of where I could see Chris Paul land, because he's so hands-on with HBCUs, amplifying HBCU sports and things of that sort. And of course, like you said, he got his degree from Winston-Salem State. So there is a huge possibility. Coaching, I don't think so much, but definitely on the business side, knowing what Winston-Salem State is and how they run things over there. It's one of the top institutions in the state of North Carolina. And just seeing how they've been operating, pouring into the students, pouring into the staff, pouring into these athletic programs, I can't see Chancellor Brown not at least knocking on his door and saying, hey, we have a spot for you. This is what would come with the job, and we would love to have you to be able to turn over the men's basketball program, because the women are doing just fine. So, I mean, why not, right? Who wants to, have a crazy women's game where the energy is so exciting and everybody's so excited, and then the men come in, everybody's like, oh yeah, well, that's it,
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely could see him on the administrative side, not so much of coaching just yet.
Yeah, look, I was there. It's been a long time now, but when they had that NBA lockout and they were doing the barnstorming tour across the country, like Chris Paul was intentional about bringing that pseudo all-star game to Winston-Salem State University, and LeBron was there, Carmelo was there, D Wade was there. Like that's his circle, and
Yeah.
he could bring that potentially in a hybrid role where he can still enjoy the West Coast. But just the thought, and I think I got Nia on board, so I'm pretty happy about that. All right, we're talking CIAA basketball, SIAC basketball Division II. Their regular seasons are wrapping up. We are quickly moving into tournament play, which will be starting next week. James, SIAC, CIAA, who are your favorites as we get down to the madness is almost upon us?
Oh yeah, no, SIAC definitely have to look out for Tuskegee. They fell last year in the SIAC championship game, and they've looked really, really good all throughout the year. So that's a team to definitely watch. Miles is always a good team in the SIAC, so love them on the men's side. And then on the men's side for the CIAA, Virginia Union, you're talking about we're going to talk about former players. Obviously, Ben Wallace played at Virginia Union, was undrafted, went on to the NBA, so they have a really strong heritage up there. But Fayetteville State, you have to watch out. They are undefeated in divisional play in conference. They're 12-2 overall in conference play, and they have a style that is unlike anyone else in the HBCU space. Only one or two other teams play this style in regards to how they press pretty much the entire game in all of Division II. And so I definitely think that Fayetteville State, especially because Bluefield State, the former head coach at Bluefield State is now at Fayetteville State. And so I like Fayetteville State on the men's side in the CIAA personally.
James, Coach Hearn, you're talking about, he's there at Fayetteville State. Look, they are scoring crazy points. Virginia Union is the team with the better record, although no one has played them better and also beat them like Fayetteville State. Do you think Coach Hearn there at FSU has a shot at Coach of the Year, or does it by default go to Virginia Union because they have the best record?
Oh no, I think he does because sometimes we see it in regards to that best record and just kind of goes with the team that kind of is the number one seed. But that's not always the case. I mean, if you're turning programs around, obviously it's not necessarily an award that you get from a prior year, right? Because of what he did at Bluefield State the year prior, getting to the championship game, and then this year what he's doing at Fayetteville State. That was already a pretty good program prior to him being there with Coach DeLessio. But I definitely think he does because he's brought that system in. He's taught it to these players. Obviously, he has I think 3 or 4 players that were on the Bluefield State team that are now on his team at Fayetteville State. But you still have to execute, and that's the name of the game. You have to get the players in position to succeed. They have to listen. They have to execute. And when you see it, even if they have a similar record and Fayetteville State has the head-to-head win, then they even have the better record. So he can also get it from that perspective as well.
Yeah, I like Larry Howell as the potential player of the year just because of the points. Do you think he has some competition? They're going to have that award rolling out here, next 10 days or so.
Oh no, I mean he's a supreme scorer. I think he's 6'4". He can get to the basket. He is a 3-level scorer. And also there's a commitment to the defensive end as well. If you're going to play for Coach Hearn, you have to defend, and not only defend for a shot clock or for a half, you have to defend for 40 minutes. And so when you have an overall player that can defend, that leads the team in scoring, and can do everything you need him to do, that's a leader. I think that he definitely has a shot for that Player of the Year award.
Over in the SIAC, did Coach Dixon at Morehouse, did he potentially seal the award by beating Clark Atlanta the second time? Clark Atlanta was ahead in the standings, but Morehouse has beaten Tuskegee. They've beaten Clark Atlanta twice, so maybe not statistically the best overall record, but they have consistently beat the top teams over in that conference.
Oh yeah, he can definitely get the job done. And so I think if they finish strong, we'll definitely see Coach Dixon potentially get that award as well.
All right, take a breather, James. I just asked you multiple questions in a row because we gotta let her cook. Let her cook. It's time for Nia to tell us what's going on with the ladies. Let's start back in the CIAA. Who has done the best coach? I feel like it's just automatically Winston-Salem State. All right, Coach Terry and all the awards and all the records, but you can't just look at Fayetteville State and look at them like they're just chopped meat over there.
No. And that's the thing with the CIAA. It's so tricky. Like I was even looking at the standings and I'm seeing how Bowie State has climbed their way up to the top of their division. But I mean, what Coach Tiara Terry has done so far in her first year at Winston-Salem State cannot go unnoticed. I mean, the way that she's came in as an alumna and been able to turn that program up to the next level is just unheard of. But then you think about Fayetteville State, the defending CIAA champs, right? And how that whole system, like there's a reason why they are the defending champs. So if I had to choose between the two, I really wouldn't. It's tough. It's tough. But I'm going to give it to Coach Terry simply because, again, this new system that she's brought into Winston-Salem State and just Tolly's like, yeah, you better have said my school. Just seeing how this program has really just went to the next level. We all saw the CIAA matchup a couple weeks ago. The game to watch was Fayetteville State hosting Winston-Salem State. And Winston-Salem State just had they had a terrible – I wouldn't say a terrible game, but they didn't have their best game. And so then they come back to their house, and now it's BTA, as the kids say now. So, I mean, it's just been so fun to watch both of these teams go at it. I'm excited to see how the CIAA championship go because, I mean, the CIAA tournament, I should say, because both of these coaches are incredible basketball minds, and they're really holding it down for the CIAA amongst other teams as well.
All right, guys, all those degrees back over there in the background, they say Winston-Salem State on them. In the SIAC, man, might be the most underrated team. Edward Waters is cooking in the SIAC.
I mean, those ladies are cooking. I mean, who would have thought, right? But, I mean, just seeing the level of talent that they have from an inside game, they have great depth, but they also have a great guard game. And I think that's what really sets them aside. A lot of people have their eyes, of course, on Miles College and, of course, Clark Atlanta University because they are the top of the cream of the crop of SIAC women's basketball. But you cannot count out Edward Waters women's basketball and what the coaching staff has done so far in that program. It's just absolutely incredible. So I'm going to have my popcorn ready. I might have to throw it at the TV a couple times because I don't know. It's one of those years between both the CIAA and SIAC. I don't know who's coming out on top because all of these teams are so freaking good this year.
Who is the best player in the SIAC on the women's side? I'm
going Adriana Gardner at Clark Atlanta University. She's a lead scorer right now. She's top in scorer. She's a number one scorer in the SIAC. She's a veteran here at Clark Atlanta. And so just to see what she's done so far throughout the season, I'm excited to see how she turns that up in tournament play. But with no questions asked, Adriana Gardner for sure.
All right, James, please join me and let's give it up for our girl here, Nia Symone. Nia was not with us on air last weekend because she was busy. She was in New York. And let me just brag like 20 seconds. When I first met Nia was up and down the streets in her little Honda Civic, just trying to get enough gas to get from one basketball game to the next. And like a pack of chips was like dinner for Nia. And this past weekend, Nia, you were in New York debuting a new documentary you're a big part of, Soul Power. Look, when you're on Amazon Prime and you're looking for HBCU Go, you can also find Soul Power there as well. So you can make it a 2-for-1. Tell us about the documentary as we close out today here on The Pulse.
Oh, man, what an incredible documentary. I learned so much as, I guess I was born in 97, but they say we're the top of Gen Z, whatever. I consider myself a millennial, but that's a question for another day. But just learning so much. So I was a story editor on all 4 episodes of Soul Power, the docuseries. And of course, that's just the birth of the swagger of what the NBA is today, right? The NBA, I think the cap was at the time between the 50s and 60s that it was only limited to 2 Black players on each team. Some just had one. And so the ABA gave an opportunity for Black and brown players to play the game that they love on the professional level. When we see the tricolor basketball, the money ball is what we call it now. That's the ABA ball, right? The swagger, shout out to Dr. J, the large afros. They would have afro competitions of who has the bigger afro, right? Who has the most swag, the nice bell bottoms. That all came from the ABA, right? And just the artistry and the expression of basketball, the dunks, the behind the backs, the crossovers, the between the legs, that all birthed it from the ABA. And so, of course, in this documentary, we debunk a lot of just, I guess you could say, the jokes or the shade that was thrown at the ABA. If you've seen the movie Semi-Pro, which is a hilarious movie, it's actually a nod to the ABA, right? Because people think, oh, that's just a league of just a whole bunch of clowns and this and that. And it's like, no, this league was a league that was trailblazing, that gave the opportunity for so many Black and brown players, and even HBCU players had a shot to playing in the ABA. And it's just one of those forgotten legend stories. And so I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful to have worked on this documentary. It's so good. And you just learn about the history of basketball. And I forgot to mention the most important part that the ABA birthed was the 3-point line.
Yes.
The freaking 3-point line. Who would have thought, right? And, again, back during those days, it was like, oh, nobody takes them serious. They're just jokesters. And it's like, no, the NBA would not be what it is today without the ABA. And I'm just so proud of it. I have so much pride. Shout out to everybody who had a hand in this documentary. But yes, please check out Soul Power on Amazon Prime. We're the #1 documentary right now in the country. So check it out.
Yep. And check us out on HBCU Go. We are right there. Nia is everywhere. So proud of you. And make sure you catch us each and every weekend here on The Pulse, all of our broadcasts, the crossover show. You get the new voice of HBCU sports, James Hadnot. You get to catch him every weekend. Living history, like Black History Month. He is just birthing a new era, a new generation. Thank you. So make sure you catch us all on HBCU Go. Until next time, I'm TC. We'll see you later.